All right, how's everyone doing? I am Rich CELENZA. Thanks for checking out the Rich CELENZA show. So, what I'm going to talk about today is something I touch upon a lot in my Mastering Self-Confidence program, mainly with men trying to meet women. But in this case, I'm going to kind of address both men and women on this podcast because I know a lot of women, not a lot, but women do listen to my podcast besides just men. And I think a lot of times I gear it mainly towards men. But what I'm going to talk about in this podcast really is about the approach, the open when meeting somebody you don't know, somebody you haven't been introduced to. But it's not just about the opening when meeting them. It's also about the middle and even closing. Now, a lot of times when I talk about an open and closing, I think they think about it's like a pickup line type thing or pickup artist type stuff. And that is the complete opposite of what I'm talking about. When I talk about meeting people, I don't care if it's meeting the opposite sex or somebody you're interested in or even anyone randomly. It's about building friendships first. It's not about picking someone up or randomly hitting on them and trying to immediately get their phone number to get on a date with them or any tactics, I guess you could say. That is not what I'm talking about here. What I'm going to talk about, though, is kind of how I think a lot of people fall into certain categories when opening or being in the middle in a conversation or closing, I guess, which basically means at the close, we're going to be, maybe still in touch with this person after we're done talking. Again, that doesn't mean you're going to go on a date. That doesn't mean you're going to hook up. It doesn't mean any of those things. It just means if you separate from one another, you still will have something. It could be social media. It may be a phone number. It could be whatever that you could still communicate with one another after you two separate. And I think the thing is with a lot of people, men and women, especially when it comes to somebody they're interested in, the opposite sex, they see somewhere publicly. And they have strengths, but they also have weaknesses. I have a lot of friends that are very good at the open. Some just can talk to anybody, right? They're very good at meeting, especially women or in social environments, parties or whatever, just talking to anyone. But the thing is, a lot of times, especially if they're interested in somebody, and I should say they're good in the middle, but when it comes to the end, they don't have really the balls to either ask for the phone number or ask for a social media, connection or a name, or maybe even just meeting up in the future somewhere for coffee, not necessarily having to go on a date or any of those things. They I call shit in the pants. They just don't know how to. And when I say close, that doesn't mean close in the sense where you're closing them like you're locking them down or some bullshit like that. I'm just saying you just lose touch with them. I also have friends that do not open at all. They're good in the middle, though, if someone starts talking or someone talks to them. And then they're really good at closing. They have really, a good way of going about that. People are usually, after they're getting ready to leave one another, they still want to keep in touch with that person. It could, again, be through social media, phone number, whatever the case may be. They're really good at the close. And then I have other people that really aren't good at the beginning or the end. They're just really good conversation. They just have really good conversations with people. They just kind of float in. They're more kind of, you probably have a lot of these friends that, they kind of sit back, they wait for everything else to start happening, and then they kind of join in. They're kind of like moths, I call them. They fly in, and then they kind of fly out. And even if they're in certain environments where they're interested in somebody, they never really seem to take it any further. They seem alone a lot of times. They may not go on a lot of dates or whatever the case may be. And really the main reason, truthfully, is because they don't put enough effort at the end to really make that personal connection. And I'm here to tell you, this is, it doesn't matter if you're a man or woman, but I will say this, but hold on, let me get some water. A lot of times, I do think men may be better at the close when meeting a woman, let's say, in a situation where they're interested in them. And reason being is I think men have been programmed that once they're having a connection or talking things through, they're programmed to say, hey, can I, maybe reach out to you again through a phone number? Would you like to go out? Would you like to do these things? And a lot of men are also, they're just used to being rejected, but they'll still give it a shot a lot of times. Where I've noticed a lot of times with women, where they're really good at opening and even great in the middle having conversations. But then when it comes to a close at the end, they really get nervous, I think. I don't know if it's nervous because they think the guy's going to be like, no, I'm in a relationship maybe, or they're going to get rejected. But a lot of times, and I see this with a lot of my friends that are girls, they just don't know how to close. I don't know why. I think they've also been programmed where maybe at the end asking, if you randomly talk to a dude, you asking them for their phone number, you asking to maybe meet them up somewhere, or maybe even saying, hey, would you like to go on a date or meet up or go to a movie? Whatever the case may be, I think they're just not used to that. And I can understand that. I think a lot of times too, with the way things are with younger people, they're better at communicating through text. It could be through Messenger in one way or another on a social media platform. And it's a lot easier to kind of go back and forth that way, because if you get rejected and someone says, oh, I'm sorry, I can't go tonight. I could do another day, or hit me up later, whatever the case may be. It's not as hard of a hit as when you have a one-on-one conversation and you ask somebody to do something or for a number or whatever, and they reject you. It's a lot different, right? But I'm not going to get too long-winded on this, but I am going to say, regardless, who you are, if you do want to meet different people publicly, again, it could be if you're interested in somebody or not, or it could just be wanting to talk to other people, you got to learn how to really open, right, and have a nice conversation in the middle and keep it going and close. And again, I don't mean this just in a relationship environment or friendship or hitting on someone, I guess you could say. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm saying this because a lot of times you may meet people even in business. You may meet people just randomly anywhere. You may go to a book signing, hypothetically, and connect with the author. Or you may go to, a premiere and meet the director or whatever, and I get a lot of times we have these ways maybe of communicating through Twitter or social media, but if you're talking to this person, you're really hitting it off, right? For one, you got to have the balls to go talk to them. Also, keep a good conversation in the middle. And also at the end, maybe making yourself interesting enough where you can connect again down the road, maybe on more of a personal level. Just as far as maybe you two meeting up again and just having a cup of coffee, or you two just having a friendship. It could even be on social media or whatever, but keeping that connection alive and going, because I think so many people blow it. And that's one thing that I think has been pretty decent with me throughout my life is I'm okay at the open, because I don't care what I say, truthfully, a lot of times. But I will admit a lot, and I can keep a conversation going. I guess I'm okay at small talk during anything, whatever. But I'm pretty good at the end. But my end is, I'm just going to say, as far as how I look at the end is, there's no desperation, and there's no component of me kind of, going to the point where it can work or not, but I kind of am really good at offering if somebody is interested, I guess you could say. And I think that's what people need to do, instead of always maybe saying, can I have your phone number? Or can I have this? Can we, that's not what I'm about. And I think people have to just take the approach that when talking to somebody and wanting to close and saying, hey, maybe in the future, I can hit you up, or maybe in the future you can hit me up, or hey, where do you hang out? Or kind of if they work there, hey, what hours do you work? Or, all these things, like kind of learning how to just take it very casual and take your time. So I just want to do a podcast on this, because I just think these are things that a lot of people don't think about. And I was just talking to my friend, really having coffee regarding this, and he told me something I never knew, because I've known him for 35 years. And he said when he was with me and my friends, when we'd go out, he was very quiet and shy. And then we were very kind of aggressive back then, especially going to nightclubs and bars and just meeting women. He said you would just talk to anybody. You didn't care, and he said he would never do that. But then when I wasn't with him, he was with his other group of friends, or even when he was by himself, he talked to anybody. But around me, he was kind of intimidated. But he told me about when he'd go with his friends, that all his friends kind of looked at him and said, wow, you just randomly can talk to somebody. Not only that, at the end, you can still connect with that person. And it was just kind of caught me off guard. So I thought I would do a podcast on this, because I think a lot of people are in that situation. But learn kind of how to do all three. And one of the things you're going to learn by doing all three is a lot of times you're going to have to deal with rejection, or people blowing you off, or snubbing you, or not wanting to talk to you. That's life in general. Don't take it personal. I talk about it all the time. You may, want to start a conversation with somebody and they roll their eyes at you, or they'll just, give you a short answer, or put their headphones in, or just walk away from you. It happens. It can even happen in the middle of a conversation. A lot of times you may be at a party or and you're talking, and you're like, wow, this person, I'm really interested in, maybe talking more with it, and they just walk away from you. And even towards the end, like we were talking about earlier, you may be talking and, at the end you think, hey, maybe this person's interested in me, or I'm interested in them, or we can connect later. And then there's nothing, or you ask them and they just say no, or they just, who knows, they could give you a wrong number or a wrong name, or they can actually too on the other side, just right there, you kind of connect on your phone and you just, you could be on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, and you connect. You don't know, but that's what life's about. So, you got any questions or comments, you can hit me up at masteringselfconfidence.com. In that program, I mainly talk about men and how to really approach women, I think, in a way that most men never approach women, I guess you could say. I go through many different things on that course. I'm also at CELENZA.com. So any questions or comments, hit me up, but try to master all three. Don't be strong in one and weak in two, or good in two and weak at the other one. And especially, don't think you got to be good at the opening and just good in the close, because if the conversation in the middle sucks, what's that going to lead to, right? So it's not only about starting that conversation, it's about the middle, keeping somebody interested in what you're saying, you're paying attention, and you're kind of really seeing what that type of person's about. And then at the end, the end's the end. So take care, and I wish you nothing but the best.